Welcome back, guys, to my channel. And today we're gonna be watching a game played between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. And let's see what we can learn from arguably the greatest player of all time, and also Hikaru Nakamura, who's pretty good at the game also. So let's try to see what we can get from the game. And this was played this year in the playoffs. Now Magnus is white and Hikaru is black. Let's see how the game went. So, okay. So Magnus opens with e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and the bishop pins the knight. Somewhat, the knight gets protected, and he just develops the knight right there to c3. The other knight goes to g6, and he attacks the center. He takes, and the bishop is attacked. The bishop goes back, and the queen is attacked. You want to trade queens? No, I don't want to trade queens. Okay, I'm just going to develop my bishop, and he pushes his a pawn, trying to gain time by attacking that queen. That queen is a little bit misplaced, so you want to attack it. So Hikaru is like, okay, if you can push your a pawn, I can also push, my a pawn also, I'm gonna stop your whatever you're doing. He decides to castle, the bishop attacks the queen. Now you might think that this is a free pawn, the bishop was protecting it, it went right there, attacking the queen, and now this is a little bit tender, so maybe the queen can just take it. Well, if the queen takes it, first of all, the queen is gonna get trapped right there. This rook f to b1, and the queen is trapped. You're gonna have to get one of the rooks, at least get something for the queen. So that's the reason why he didn't take that. So he's like, let's just trade your bishop. Let's takes, and the other rook is centralized. The queen is attacked. He's like, you wanna trade queens now? Okay, I'll take, and then he takes. The pawn moves right there. The knight is attacked. The knight goes back, attacking the rook. The rook does not move because the knight is pinned. The king is unpinning the knight, and now the rook is gonna be captured if you don't move it, most likely. So he moves it back. He pushes the pawn, just maybe trying to develop this bishop on this nice diagonal. It's gonna be very, if this bishop can get to this diagonal, it's gonna do some real damage. So let's see what Magnus is gonna do to deal with that. He's just gonna attack the center. There's a principle that says if your opponent is playing on the side, you gotta strike at the center. It's like a saying, one of the principles. So okay, so he pushes right there, and the knight goes on this side. Normally whenever a knight is on the side, generally they say that they are dim because they can't do too much. So let's see what he's gonna do. The other knight goes on the center to e4, and the knight is centralized. The rook goes back. Ooh, the Magnus Carlsen blunder. Let's replay. Rook is attacked. Even here, he could have done the same thing, but he played that move, attacking that rook. The rook moves, and it gets attacked. Now, what can white do? Yeah, that's the Magnus Carlsen blunder with 7 minutes on the clock. Does Magnus Carlsen ever blunder? Maybe it's one of those rare times that he does blunder. Now, if I gave you this position, if you just look at it, who would you say is better? Most of us, even myself included, would say that black is probably winning, just because he's gonna get a free piece. I mean, that's pretty much it. He's gonna get a free piece, and he's gonna try to trade, and bam, the game is gonna be over. And it looks like, So let's see. Yeah. So what's the idea here? Huh? What's the idea? So just try to like look for candidate moves and try to see what Magnus envisioned. Why did Magnus allow like a 300 elo tactic to be played against him? Because normally like whenever like 300 elo, 400 elo, I mean even at the higher elos, but normally at those lower elos, that's when something like this is more common. Okay, so that's the reason why, en passant, Magnus was never in trouble. He knew that you can attack 2 times. I'm just gonna take your guy, and that's pretty much what he did. The bishop goes, you gotta block that pass pawn, because that pawn is looking dangerous. If he didn't do anything, I can even push, attacking the bishop. If he didn't do anything, this pawn could be here, and then this rook supporting, and then this bishop, and then this knight. It will be, pretty much game over. So he had to block. So now that knight is kind of pinned, because that rook is undefended. Knight's defended, so the knight can move. He's attacking that pawn right there. He takes, and he attacks that pawn. The pawn is defended. He checks, he goes right there, and he attacks that knight. Now the reason he did that is because he doesn't want to take the pawn, and then his knight is going to be trapped. Well, most likely, but you can take that, and then the king, he could have taken that and then go back and then push if the king tried to attack, but then this one is also but he knows what he was doing, so the knight goes right there. He takes. Oh wow, he sacked his rook. Okay, take. It's not really, it's an exchange sack, because he got the bishop back. And now I believe that is the reason why he kind of sacked his rook, is because this guy right there is gonna be the game changer. Now you can bring the other rook back, which he does. Take. The knight is attacked. What are you gonna do? You just take, because you don't want to lose this, because if you lose this, it might be game over, because normally a rook for a minor piece, the rook normally is better. So the knight goes right there. He takes, the knight attacks it, and he goes back right there. Now you cannot take here with the rook, because I take with check, and then I take that. So now you might have to take with the knight. If you take with the knight, yeah, I guess you can take with the knight. So which he does. Take with the knight. He takes, he pins it, he goes back, he moves his king, he just supports the other pawn, he moves his king, and he just takes, attacks. The knight is saved. He also saves his bishop, and he attacks the king goes back. He attacks the bishop goes back. He attacks the knight is defended. He gives a check, the king goes to d2. He pins the knight is unpinned. He tries to do a discover check. He blocks the check before it ever happens. The king is centralized. He attacks the knight goes back. He moves in the king, and the rook tries to go onto somewhat of an open file. He just takes, gives a check. He attacks, and then he takes. Now, what is the material count? Normally, a piece is like worth 3 pawns. So there's like 5 pawns for a piece. 5 pawns. So I guess it's kind of balancing out. 5 pawns for the rook, and also this bishop for the knight. except these pawns are gonna march pretty quickly. So white is winning. White is obviously winning. So let's see what's gonna happen. First, you push, restricting that rook. The rook tries to free itself. You push again. You give way for the king. You don't want to give any checks, free checks. So the bishop goes back and the king gets centralized. Now, you might wonder why he didn't attack here, you know. He's saying if you take, I take, you know, then he can start pushing this. You take, he pushes. Maybe you try to win this, you know. The other thing is way too fast. So that's why I didn't go for that. Because these pawns, you know, they're kinda, you know, they're gonna win the game for him most likely. So now he wants to block, go there. So this, you know, so he can start push. He sucks his knight because, you know, he knows what's gonna happen. He takes, he goes right there. And I believe he just resigned the game. He played that, resigned the game, because he's just gonna push. If you give a check, I block, and then I push. You go right there, I push. Next move, I go right there, and you know, he saw, you know, you're gonna have to give your rook for this pawn, and then this bishop is gonna go protect one of these pawns. Push, easy win. So that is the game right there, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And Magnus went 9 out of 9 in one of these events. I believe there was like an event going on where he went 9 out of 9. We're gonna try to see exactly what Magnus did. Yeah, you guys have a nice day. Peace out.